Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Choose New Jersey, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, IBEW Local 102, lighting the path, leading the way, Veolia, resourcing the world, New Jersey Sharing Network, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and by Englewood Health. Promotional support provided by CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and by Insider NJ.
Steve Adubato here. We're joined to kick off this program by State Assemblywoman Britnee Timberlake, who happens to be the chair of the State Assembly Commerce and Economic Development Committee. Assemblywoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Steve.
There are so many issues we could talk about, but I want to focus in the time we have on the initiative that you're involved in called the Community Wealth Preservation Program. What is this legislation? What does it have to do with property that is foreclosed?
Yeah, sure. The Community Wealth Preservation Program is a very innovative, creative solution to the issue of foreclosure. As you know, New Jersey has one of the highest racial wealth gaps in the country. We know that real estate is the #1 wealth building tool around the world. And unfortunately, New Jersey is constantly leading in the area of having the highest foreclosures in the nation, too. So this bill will actually create the process of equity, enabling a person to be able to save their home at the time of sale, helping like their child, grown adult child, can save their home at the time of sale for the parent. Or a nonprofit organization will be able to gain access to the property and put it back online in the community for the purposes of creating affordable home ownership or rental opportunity. And also for people who want to contribute and live and be a part of the community and not just flip the houses as a business model, but actually contribute to living and being a part of the beautiful fabric all over New Jersey, they can use this program too.
How could it be that approximately 50% of the homes in Newark that are foreclosed on are owned by corporations? Why would that be? And B, how does that make any sense?
Well, we have had corporate ownership over Black and Brown communities, and I speak in terms of Black and Brown because you mentioned Newark. It's a primarily Black and Brown community. Corporations have owned our community for years. Now we're seeing national headlines that show a trend where they're also beginning to own in suburban areas, which is now gaining traction for the issue. This bill is also about creating community ownership. So it gives you the opportunity to have 3.5% down at the time of foreclosure sale and the rest of the money due in 90 business days versus what it is now, which is a process created for corporations because you need 20% cash or money order upfront to bid on that property. And then you need the rest of the money due within 30 days with interest building on the 11th. And it's primarily all cash. Exactly. Most people don't have that. That sounds like corporations have that. So this bill is changing the power dynamic of property ownership and creating it so that it's owned by community members so that we have an opportunity to save our wealth all over the state of New Jersey.
So I'm curious about this. As we speak on the 20th of September, again, will be seen later. I often say that because I want people to know that we're taping at a certain time. My understanding, and this may not be the case once this airs, this legislation, your legislation, the Community Wealth Preservation Program, has been conditionally vetoed by the governor. That's not an outright veto. It's a veto with language that says, I want you to change some aspect of the language in the legislation. What exactly does that mean?
Well, we're taking a look right now what the conditional veto language is, and we're going to be making some serious decisions about whether or not we're going to accept the language or send the governor a clean bill. My biggest concern is always about closing the loopholes. You have to close the loopholes, because if a corporation can get through a loophole wide enough to drive a Mack truck through, then what this bill will do is the reverse of its intent. It will actually displace more residents than it will help. So the loopholes have got to be closed. We're evaluating it extremely close to see exactly what our next steps are. This would be the first of a kind in the nation, a bill like this. And again, it would be a game changer, because it's all about putting the power back into the hands of the communities to hold on, to preserve their wealth, to create wealth through homeownership, and so many other things.
So I'm going to follow up on this. Take the governor out of the equation for a second. What was the vote in the lower house in the state assembly on this? You have 80 members of the assembly. What was the vote?
You know, that's a great question, Steve. I'm not exactly sure exactly how the numbers
But I'll tell you
split.
why I'm asking.
But it was a majority, obviously.
Okay, but obviously it was a majority, or it had 41 or more. But here's my question. Was there opposition to this? And if so, where did it come from?
So we actually had opposition through the corporate banks. And we were also working with the Sheriff's Department to get some language together. Over the summer, we spent a great deal of time working on language that addressed the governor's concerns, the bank's concerns, sheriff's concerns.
When you say sheriffs, because sheriffs are the ones who oversee the foreclosure process. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Assemblywoman.
We've been with them from the beginning, working on this legislation. They've been really great to work with. And we also made sure that we addressed the nonprofit concerns and that of the people. And it was really great language. So my request was if there was going to be a CV, to pull that language where we got everyone on board for. But unfortunately, we have to take a look at the CV language that wasn't completely accepting of the language that we had offered up.
And CV is shorthand for conditional veto. Real quick, we have a child care initiative called Reimagine Childcare. Your primary concern about the child care crisis in the state is?
My primary concern is that we're going to have child care facilities closing. Women are going to be dropping out of the workforce, all because child care is too expensive now. But in order for our daycares to survive, they're going to need to raise tuition, which is going to then have parents decide not to, one of the parents, more than likely the woman, is going to have to decide to stay home. And it's really a cause and effect. So you have high daycare expenses. It's not uncommon to see tuition be $1,200 to $1,500 for one child a month. A month. You keep multiplying that, and you start to have those conversations about, okay, well, is it worth it to go to work to actually cover this expense, which can be as high as a mortgage? And then what you'll have is the daycare centers, which are primarily women-owned.
That's right.
And also many of them minority-owned too.
Right.
Closing their doors because they don't have the clientele. So that's going to cause a dropout of the workforce, which is, again, it's all cause and effect. And you're going to see also the downfall of our economy because you're going to have a workforce decimated.
Right. And again, our part of this initiative is creating greater public awareness regarding the connection between, Assemblywoman, child care, access to affordable, accessible, quality child care, and the economy. Assemblywoman, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. We appreciate it. It will not be the last time you join us. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D. and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Are you looking to be a part of a dynamic, forward-thinking business service organization? At the Meadowlands Chamber, every day we connect, collaborate, and innovate, helping to drive business and economic growth in the greater Meadowlands and New Jersey. I invite you to visit our Meadowlands Chamber headquarters, an open office facility with access to resources for our members' businesses and networking needs. Together, we will build the Chamber of the future and the next generation of leaders.
I am alive today thanks to my kidney donor. I am traveling and more active than ever before.
I'm alive today thanks to my heart donor. I'm full of energy and back singing in my church choir.
I'm alive today thanks to my lung donor. I'm breathing easy and I'm enjoying life's precious moments.
There are about 4,000 people in New Jersey waiting for a life-saving transplant.
Donation needs diversity.
For more information or to become an organ and tissue donor, visit njsharingnetwork.org.
We are now joined by State Assemblyman John DiMaio, who is the Assembly Minority Leader, which is another way of saying he's the leader of the Republican Party in the lower house. Good to have you with us, Assemblyman.
Great to be here, Steve. Good to see you again.
You got it. Assemblyman, what's the biggest concern you have about the anchor property tax relief program that Governor Murphy and the Democrats passed in the last several months?
Well, Steve, I guess I would rather have seen something more permanent. This is never ends up being a permanent thing. We've seen rebates over decades eventually shrink, get whittled down, and evaporate like a rainstorm in the desert. That's probably the biggest thing here. We had offered up some suggestions on things that were a lot better. The tax brackets in New Jersey, income tax brackets, haven't been indexed for inflation since 1996. The federal government does this each year. If we were to index for inflation back to the year 2000, it's about a 68% difference. Married couples would save, making $110,000 a year, would save about $1,600 in taxes. A single earner at $70,000 would save $1,000. And this would be permanently baked into the tax rates and be a long-term, what we feel to be sustainable solution to this. If you think about it, the anchor program is not a law. It is simply in the budget language of the current fiscal year's budget. And the other thing that really has us concerned is this doesn't come this year when inflation is running pretty rampant in the country. Fuel prices have settled down for now because the president is burning up a million barrels of the oil out of the strategic reserve. We'll see how that acts after that's done, and we have to replenish that supply. But the reality is there's no real relief for people now, and there's nothing that's sustainable in long term.
Switch gears. Let me ask you this. The state legislature, along with the governor, and I know how you voted on this, as it relates to Roe v. Wade, legal right to abortion, which the United States Supreme Court overturned in that historic and important decision. When the legislation was up to codify Roe v. Wade to protect a woman's right to a legal abortion in the state, you voted against that effort because?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, full-term abortion is a heinous act. And there are a lot of pro-choice people that I know that do not like this. I think that there could have been a more acceptable path, maybe something in the middle of the road where there were limits on time, with the exception, of course, health of the mother.
What about rape? What about rape?
Rape and incest could be part of that as well.
You believe it? So you believe if in fact a woman is raped, a victim of incest, or her health is at risk, that she should be able to get a legal abortion in the state of New Jersey and in the nation, just to be clear?
Yeah, that would be a more acceptable bill, Steve. I mean, the way this is, it is very difficult to even envision a full-term baby. I have an 8-month-old granddaughter and a
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting older. And a 3.5-year-old grandson who, when you see today's ultrasounds, you could literally see the baby. I mean, when my kids were born, it was this blob of, I couldn't see anything, but now you can see the baby. And, when you see that, it would make it really difficult, except for extenuating circumstances or some really difficult things that brought you to the pregnancy. There could have been a more modest approach to this, but there's no way I could support the bill the way it was.
Let me ask you this. While this is not a state public policy issue, it is a larger issue. As I asked this, our graphic Democracy at a Crossroads, we have a mini-series we've been doing for many years that looks at representative democracy at very difficult times. Would you characterize, or how would you characterize those who attacked the United States Capitol, the insurrection, if you will, in the effort to stop the verification of the vote in the 2020 election? How would you characterize those who assaulted and attacked the United States Capitol that day?
It was wrong. It was wrong, pure and simple. You don't act like that. We have the right to go anywhere. If people want to stand outside the State House with signs with my name on it, they hate my bill, whatever. Perfectly within reason. Even when they were outside of the building and they were doing their protest, I have no problem with that. Everyone's entitled under the Constitution to express their opinion, but it was an absolute breach to enter that building that day, and some of the acts that happened were totally wrong.
And when former President Trump says if he were elected again, he would pardon all of them, your view on that?
That's his opinion. I mean, I can't, if he were to be elected. I mean.
But you disagree with that?
I think that laws were broken and we're a nation of laws.
Let me ask you something. You've always struck me as the word reasonable is ridiculous. You're just a very civil, respectful legislator who has differences of opinion with people on the merits. No rancor, no anger, no whatever. There's a problem in our nation in so many levels. Why do you believe that public discourse, not just among elected officials, but among people, have gotten so divisive that we can't even have a conversation just because we have different points of view, Assemblyman?
Well, listen, just recently we swore in a new member on the floor, and I was there to witness it. Unfortunately, one of my wonderful friends and colleagues, Assemblyman Dancer, passed away, and a new member was sworn in. And part of what I told him the other day was make friends with everyone, Democrats and Republicans. The reality is what we talk about is not personal. There's nothing personal about issues. It's business. I mean, there's a business of, we believe that we would have smaller government, we'd be taxing you less, we'd be out of your pockets and out of your lives, and you less regulation for businesses to make the world flow better the way we believe the Constitution was made to be. And the other side sees it differently. It's not personal, period.
It's not personal, is it?
End of subject. It's not personal, not at all.
And name calling has no place.
No. And I think that if you watch, and we've been putting on a pretty tough, floor mission this year. We've been putting them on notice that we're going to point out policy issues, and we're going to make them accountable for their votes. That's our job. We're the minority. We're a growing minority too, I might remind everyone.
And one issue you may agree on with the folks on the other side of the aisle, childcare, accessible, affordable childcare being a very important in our state, particularly regarding our economy. Our series, Reimagine Childcare, the graphic is up right now. We need to deal with that directly, do we not, Assemblyman?
Obviously, something needs to happen. A lot has changed. I've two daughters that are 35 and 31. When we put them in preschool or childcare, it was a lot less expensive. I don't know what drives those costs so high, but certainly it is important in today's society. The majority of families, unfortunately or fortunately, for the income and better lifestyle, require two-income households, and it's something that we need to look at. But hopefully, it's not more expensive as a result of government.
I knew you were going to get that in, Assemblyman. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Assemblyman, I really appreciate you joining us, and as always, engaging in an honest and civil discourse. We appreciate it, Assemblyman.
Good to see you, Steve.
You got to stay with us. We'll be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato Ph.D. and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Are you looking to be a part of a dynamic, forward-thinking business service organization? At the Meadowlands Chamber, every day we connect, collaborate, and innovate, helping to drive business and economic growth in the greater Meadowlands and New Jersey. I invite you to visit our Meadowlands Chamber headquarters, an open office facility with access to resources for our members' businesses and networking needs. Together, we will build the Chamber of the future and the next generation of leaders.
I am alive today thanks to my kidney donor. I am traveling and more active than ever before.
I'm alive today thanks to my heart donor. I'm full of energy and back singing in my church choir.
I'm alive today thanks to my lung donor. I'm breathing easy and I'm enjoying life's precious moments.
There are about 4,000 people in New Jersey waiting for a life-saving transplant.
Donation needs diversity.
For more information or to become an organ and tissue donor, visit njsharingnetwork.org.
We are honored to be joined by Dr. Teik Lim, who is the president of New Jersey Institute of Technology. Good to see you, Mr. President.
Steve, it's great engaging you today. Thank you for having me here today.
You got it. Now, you are, in fact, the 9th president of NJIT. Dr. Joel Bloom, the previous president, also a member of our board of trustees at the Caucus Educational Corporation. We've had a chance, you and I have had a chance to talk offline. What is the biggest change from your background in Texas? You were, in fact, a higher ed leader at the University of Texas at Arlington, the leader there. Biggest difference between Texas and New Jersey is?
The weather. Of course, right. This is a much better weather here. You know, I love fall season. In fact, Steve, before I moved to Texas, I lived most of my life in the US in Ohio. And in Ohio, a wonderful fall season, just like New Jersey. So I'm back to my sort of my old stomping ground in terms of weather.
Got it. I want to also make clear that the NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, is one of our higher ed partners. Dr. Lim, let me ask you, what do you see as the most pressing issues in the world of higher education, particularly as the college age, I don't even know what that means anymore, but the population going to college appears to be declining? Doctor?
Right, yeah. You know, I think the most pressing issue that higher institutions like NJIT and many others are facing, is to reimagine itself on what tertiary education, what higher education means. You know, traditionally, you have the first-time, full-time college students that everybody try to attract. But today, in my mind, education is a lifelong process. When we award a degree to a student, we don't want the students to go off and never engage us at all. We want the student to come back to NJIT time and again for upskilling, reskilling. When they want to make a change in their professional career, they will come back and get advice from us. We want to be like a one-stop shop for all of our graduates for the rest of their career life. And I think institution that does that well, and also institution that embrace digital technology in doing that, I think will flourish down the road. That's, to me, is the most critical issue that are facing us today. What is higher education today? That's the question.
Dr. Lim, I'm curious about this. With the digital revolution that we're experiencing, with COVID accelerating, if you will, the digital revolution, with so much work being done like this, what opportunities does that present for a university like NJIT?
Oh, the opportunity is plentiful. As you just say, we're going through a digital revolution. Now, let me take a step back. Traditionally, higher ed institution, move on a geological time scale, you know. But once a while, there will be events, or incidents that happen that leapfrog us into a future. The pandemic, although we never wish for it because many people suffer, but the pandemic, the silver lining underneath the pandemic, is that it propels higher ed far out into the future. It will take us years to get here. And that future, is this digital revolution that is occurring. So institutions that make full use of this digital revolution that's going on, that embrace digital technology into everything that we do, teaching, learning, research, engagement with industry. If you incorporate that, okay, into our day-to-day operation here, our strategic plan, I think we will flourish. So what that means, okay, is traditionally we think of the way you engage a university, you have to be here 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday.
Right.
But with digital technology, it removes this constraint of space and time. We need to be like the Amazon of the higher ed, in the sense that you go to Amazon and buy something, you don't think about where Amazon is. And we want people from East Coast, West Coast, around the world to engage NJIT anytime, any place. That's the critical role of in my mind, higher ed.
Dr. Lim, let me follow up on this. And I've taught at the higher ed level in several places, one of them being NJIT. I taught a leadership course several years ago. That was all in person because it was pre-pandemic. I've also taught in hybrid situations and fully remote. Question, it's not about my teaching, but Professor Dr. Lim, you've taught, you understand teaching, the massive difference between in-person and remote. But are we saying now, listen, you've got to be able to engage people regardless of the platform? I know it's a loaded question. Go ahead, Teik.
To a degree, that is correct. We need to use the best platform to engage students and people. In some instances, it has to be in person. In some instances, it's online. In like what we're doing now, we're doing it online and it works effective. So it depends on the scope, it depends on the area of discipline, and it depends on what we're trying to do. So I think we need to embrace all modality that includes in-person, converge. Converge means that we're bringing, folks from anywhere around the world into the classroom physically, digitally, with physical presence of students here, and then also online. So we need to embrace all this modality to be able to effectively deliver the education that we provide, make it available, accessible to as many people as possible.
I'm glad you raised that. In the minute we have left, Mr. President, affordability, accessibility of higher education with costs being what they are. There's no one solution, but your thoughts on that moving forward. Got about a minute left.
Well, we need to be an institution, okay, that is both affordable and attractable. Those two goes hand in hand. And clearly, we cannot continue to increase tuition and put on the backs of students, okay, for the support of this institution. We need to diversify our revenue sources. And one way to do that, okay, is to create external engagement with industry, corporations, and whatnot, so that we are able to partner, create mutually beneficial partnership that would allow us to continue our mission, which is to educate students, get them out there, become the best version of themselves when they leave here, and be an impactful, productive citizen of society.
That is Dr. Teik Lim, president, the 9th president of New Jersey Institute, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Dr. Lim, to you and the NJIT family, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's been great to have a conversation with you.
It will not be the last. I'm Steve Adubato. That's Teik Lim. We'll see you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Choose New Jersey, NJ Best, IBEW Local 102, Veolia, New Jersey Sharing Network, New Brunswick Development Corporation, Englewood Health, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. And by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by CIANJ and Commerce Magazine. And by Insider NJ.
Are you looking to be a part of a dynamic, forward-thinking business service organization? At the Meadowlands Chamber, every day we connect, collaborate, and innovate, helping to drive business and economic growth in the greater Meadowlands and New Jersey. I invite you to visit our Meadowlands Chamber headquarters, an open office facility with access to resources for our members' businesses and networking needs. Together, we will build the Chamber of the future and the next generation of leaders.
I am alive today thanks to my kidney donor. I am traveling and more active than ever before.
I'm alive today thanks to my heart donor. I'm full of energy and back singing in my church choir.
I'm alive today thanks to my lung donor. I'm breathing easy and I'm enjoying life's precious moments.
There are about 4,000 people in New Jersey waiting for a life-saving transplant.
Donation needs diversity.
For more information or to become an organ and tissue donor, visit njsharingnetwork.org.